Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Look, let me ask you, what do you think will happen if you combine a gear made of solid metal and peace that is walking? Oh yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. You get Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Undoubtedly one of the most revolutionary games ever released in the history of the PlayStation Portable, and overall, probably the history of the entire Metal Gear Solid series. A game that dates all the way back from 2010, during the absolute peak of the era of the PSP. Hideo Kojima, the greatest video game designer that's ever lived, drops an absolute banger of a game that is the Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Now, before you go complaining, "Oh, this game is so old. Oh, is this even a mobile game?" Yeah, that's what it sounds like. First of all, the age of a game is irrelevant to how good or bad it is. Second, while originally this is a PSP game, the PPSSPP emulator allows it to be played on mobile, so technically it counts. Metal Gear Solid is a story-driven action-adventure stealth game where you sneak your way into hostile territory, avoiding detection, kung fu your enemies, throw them into the wall, hold them up using a banana, tranquilize them and make them fall asleep, abuse the weapon leveling mechanic by repeatedly shooting them in the head with the tranquilizer, and many more ways to take down your enemies non-lethally. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so here comes. Now, I don't expect some of you guys to actually know what a PSP is. So, for those of you who doesn't have a clue what is a PSP, well, a PSP is a handheld portable console. It works like any other PlayStation controller but with lesser buttons. And there's a screen in the middle. In a mobile emulator, it works the same as the genuine console. You use the buttons to select things and basically control everything in the game. Alright, now let's talk about the game. The game starts off in a coast where gay men are beating the hell out of each other in the rain. And here we are introduced to the main protagonist, that is Naked Snake, aka Big Boss, aka John, aka Jack, aka the legendary soldier, aka the legendary mercenary. Holy hell, how does this guy have this many names? Thing is, it gets more confusing later in the timeline, but more on that later. Alright, so you start off the game and then you're immediately greeted with the grueling 20 FPS hard lock. Like, holy crap, the game is locked in 20 FPS maximum. Wow, this is garbage. The frame rate is so bad that it's weaker than my grandma on melatonin. So you go into Google, search for an FPS cheat, yoink the code, and then use it to bypass the 20 FPS hard lock. Amazing! Not even 1 minute into the game and it already has you cheating just to get better frame rate and make the game playable. All thanks to Hideo Kojima, the greatest video game designer that's ever lived. The tutorial is simple. It teaches you the basics of the buttons. Use the analog stick to move, the directional buttons to control the camera, the X, square, circle, and triangle buttons as action buttons, and the L and R buttons is for items and weapon switching. Aside from that, the tutorial also teaches the basics of close quarters combat by way of kung fu, by throwing your opponent into the ground, by throwing your opponent into another opponent, throwing multiple opponents into the ground in a chain takedown, and by using the stun rod.
If you just stand there like an idiot in front of an enemy, you might as well kill yourself now!
After the tutorial, we get our first taste of the game's story by way of... Now, I just have to give extra credit for the game's cutscenes, because it's just absolute class. We get these comic book style cutscenes that is 100% fully voiced and with text that you would normally expect from an actual comic book. It's insanely good.
Perhaps they saw something they weren't supposed to. Perhaps they heard something they shouldn't have. A cassette tape? Haas took this during her escape. She says her friend happened to record it by accident. I believe what you're about to hear will help you understand.
Yes, Chip. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, just what I need to buzz. Let me just do what I need to buzz. Cause I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing.
And to top it all off, some scenes can be interacted with, such as quick time events, button mashing, bazooka aiming, and simply moving the camera around to observe characters. It's honestly amazing. Really makes you think that for a game released back in 2010, the quality of the cutscenes are literally better than most modern games out there. I mean, look at this. What the hell is this garbage? And no, I didn't add that crappy music in the background. What the hell? Why is Laffy's face like that? What the hell is wrong with her neck? Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker makes use of a mix of animated cutscenes like this before or after gameplay, and uses the comic book style cutscenes to tell the main story. This is one of the very rare games to effectively utilize both 3D and 2D animation for its cutscenes. It's honestly genius. All thanks to Hideo Kojima, the greatest video game designer that's ever lived. The Metal Gear Solid series has always been a staple of the action-adventure stealth genre, with each primary gameplay consisting of sneaking, infiltration, and silent takedowns. Stealth is how the game goes. You wanna get the highest mission completion rank? Then you bet you have to stealth your way through the mission as fast as possible, without getting spotted and without killing anyone. So you have to take down enemies non-lethally. You have a wide variety of weapons and equipment to choose from prior to starting a mission. One mission, you're throwing smoke grenades and decoy magazines to confuse and bait the enemy into looking another way. And in the next mission, you're inside a 100% totally inconspicuous hay bale in the middle of a jungle, dragging people inside it for you to commit lustful sins. My point is that the gameplay is never the same. You could do some really cool stuff like this, or just generally fool around. Meet the double-barrel shotgun with rubber slug shells. My personal favorite and quite frankly the most overpowered non-lethal weapon in the game. I don't care what anyone says. If you think the tranquilizer is the best non-lethal weapon, then you're wrong. Plain and simple. The double-barrel shotgun with rubber slugs will instantly knock out or stun enemies upon hitting them. It also has a spread which takes down multiple enemies if they're bunched up together. It is also an amazing non-lethal alternative to snipers as it practically has infinite range. The shotgun doesn't have a silencer, so it's quite loud when you shoot it. But that doesn't matter when the person who hears the noise is instantly knocked out. But most importantly, you can do a little bit of trolling with this weapon. Oh look! A huge gaping pit. It would be very lethal if, someone were to fall in it. Oh look! An unconscious enemy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can knock unconscious enemies around using this weapon. But most importantly, you can knock them off great heights to the point the fall kills them. But the greatest part about this process of killing is that you can still get the highest rank of mission completion with 0 registered kills. Because apparently, killing enemies like this doesn't actually count. No, officer, I didn't kill him. The ground did. Sometimes it's unavoidable that at some point you will get spotted. If that's the case, every enemy in the area will be alerted of your presence, and enemy reinforcements will be called in, making it very difficult for you to get out of the situation, and yeah, things can get ugly very quickly. But this is all good news for us, as getting spotted means we've just unlocked the secondary way to play.
No, that is a weapon.
Violence. Violence, ladies and gentlemen. Your one and only solution to every problem your own stupidity causes. Heroism points? What's that? Mission rank C? C as in for cool. Committing war crimes? Hell yeah. Executing prisoners of war? Oh yes. If violence doesn't work, then use more violence. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, a game has once again given us the freedom to commit crimes of war. Ha! Geneva Convention?
Duly noted and ignored.
Aside from all that sneaking and shooting, the game gives you control over your very own base, the Mother Base. It serves as your own base of operations that you yourself manage. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that correctly. This game has some form of base and resource management. I swear this game never fails to surprise you. The Mother Base is an offshore plant located in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, and it is where you practice forced labor, social division, and general sexism. Illegally research weapons of war, illegally manufacture weapons of war, kidnap your enemies by attaching a balloon recovery system on their unconscious bodies and force them into joining your base so they can add to the workforce. Steal high-quality military heavy weaponry such as APCs, tanks, and helicopters and add them into your ever-growing collection of war machines. Form teams of troops and vehicles that you kidnapped and stole and send them into individual suicide missions, that is, the Outer Ops. All these and many more stuff later down the line. Honestly, I never really expected this game to have base and resource management mechanics at all. Not something that you would really expect from an action-adventure stealth game. So, when I found out about this, I was genuinely impressed by how well it is implemented alongside the main gameplay. I mean, I personally like it that I have to spend resources and time to research the weapons and equipment that I can use in future missions. It doesn't make the game stray too far away from the main gameplay's focus, but also doesn't make the player focus too much on the main gameplay loop. Having a base to manage on the side is honestly a refreshing look and different gameplay to take a break in after each and every mission. And all of this is thanks to Hideo Kojima, the greatest video game designer that's ever lived. The game's progression is strictly linear. You follow a laid out path and story with little to no freedom of choice. Most of the missions can be completed stealthily and non-lethally, with the only exceptions being the mechanized main boss fights. You are gonna have to fight your way with bullets and explosions against these weapons of war. In addition to the main story missions, you have the extra ops missions, which is pretty much the side quests of the game. The extra ops features different game modes and challenges such as base defense, item retrieval, and elimination missions. Now, the overall length of the game is actually quite short. You can finish the entire main storyline in less than 24 hours. If you're looking on finishing all the extra ops missions as well, then you can do all of it, main storyline included, in less than 60 hours. Personally, I have an accumulated playtime of 66 hours. And in this time, I have finished all of the story and extra ops missions with the highest mission rank attainable. Despite the game being quite short on progression, it makes up for it in the quality of literally everything else. Even so, you have another alternative way to play to make things a lot more interesting. I am of course talking about Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, even though the game is over a decade old, is still a very good game, and can easily come out on top when compared to most modern day games. Whether you're new to the PSP emulation or new to action-adventure stealth games, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker is and always will be a worthy and enjoyable game to play. If you're wondering about the Metal Gear Solid series, then Peace Walker is the second game in the timeline. The Peace Walker incident happens after the story and events of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. So don't worry, you haven't missed out much in the timeline. Also, from a beginner's perspective, you don't need to play Snake Eater to understand the events in Peace Walker. MGS Peace Walker can actually be a standalone game, since the events from Snake Eater are recalled at various points in the storyline. Point is, you will understand the story. The only criticism I have on the entire MGS series is that the entire timeline and plot would have been a lot easier to understand if half of the main cast isn't named Snake, and if they didn't have a lot of aliases. I mean, you have Naked Snake, then in later games you get Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. And then, later down the line, you get Gas Snake. Nah, just kidding, you get Solidus Snake. Not to be confused with Solid Snake. These are two different people. Alright, we are getting off topic here. So, ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of this video. This video actually took a lot of time to make, so I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I had fun making it. I thank you all for watching and see you guys in the next one.